The fifth studio album from the American-based experimental industrial hip-hop behemoths Death Grips, a group that constantly find themselves putting music enthusiasts on edge, are back with their latest project Bottomless Pit, an album that is pretty much business as usual for the trio, and once again they do not disappoint in delivering their usual brand of heavy, glitchy, chaotic, rough, visceral and manic electronic and percussion driven sounds, tribal lyrical delivery and not so subtle jibes at their fans, themselves and anyone and everyone that comes into their line of sight. And to put it bluntly, it's almost 40 minutes of absolute gloriousness that, short of completely giving up and not even trying anymore, the idea of this group making a bad album seems practically impossible at this stage. Opening up on the track Giving Bad People Good Ideas, featuring guest vocals from Clementine Creevy, to say that this track is unrelenting would be an understatement. You have the chorus from Creevy opening the track, and then suddenly you're given whiplash immediately with the erratic and simply unrelenting and manic thrashing rock guitar opening with thunderous drums that are practically a pile driver to the ears. Here the lyrics cover how much music or art has the capability of corrupting people, and also covers Death Grips' relationship they have with their fans and how MC Ride isn't creating work to satisfy the listeners but only to satisfy his own desires. Just the combination of frenetic thrash rock and visceral lyrical delivery is enough to please the listener, but that's not enough, as the next track, Hothead, is pretty much the same story. Just the combination of Ride's wild vocal delivery with the electronic experimental glitches scattered all over the start of the track and the staccato synths, drums and warped guitars. It's mayhem, but it's great mayhem. The third track, Spikes, reads as Ride being in an uncontrollable state that he finds himself beyond control with his own being, painting this mental image of a vehicle of some kind skidding all over the place, spikes popping out of the ground, adding further disarray to the whole scenario, creating this chaotic scenario where Ride has lost all control of himself. The track resumes the computerized synths, there's a bigger emphasis on the drum hi-hats, and the electronic sounds have this thick, distorted sound to them. The following song, Warping, is also similar in regards, creating this great visual image of something being warped and bent out of shape from too much usage or overexposure, like vinyls in the sun. Again, following on from the whole losing one's form theme from the previous track. Just the combination of the sludgy, slurry delivery from both the instrumentation and vocal delivery gives this song a thick, stodgy texture that's a real headbanger of a track, and it's simply fantastic. The next track, Air, is Ride's general attitude towards the Death Grips fan base, Death Grips in general, and how he generally doesn't give a fuck about what people think about his stance on both matters, exclaiming his disinterest with such apathetic discourse, stating that he doesn't care about alienating the fan base with his dissension or whether he continues with the group, claiming that he could easily drop the project without a second thought and move on with life pretty easily. I love the apathetic and dismissive vibe this song creates, and Ride strikes the perfect tone on this song and therefore stands out as one of this album's best entries. The song Bubbles Buried in the Jungle, which that alone instantaneously brings to mind the former pet monkey of pop legend Michael Jackson, reads as MC Ride acknowledging the constant style shifts that Death Grips has undergone over the years, and how he doesn't care if anyone ever gets used to the group sticking to a particular style, and admits that he doesn't want anyone to get used to their style changes, and if any fan doesn't like that, then they can basically go and fuck themselves. There's a real tribal vibe going on here, what with the chant-like chorus, the grinding, whirring electronics, hi-hats. It's another song drenched with this ugly mood, and it's pure ear candy. The following track, Trash, easily one of the best highlights on the whole album, is an attack on the millennial generation whose obsession with uploading anything and everything onto the internet is all superfluous, and how everything that's uploaded is pure unadulterated trash. Ride even throwing Death Grips into the same category. Again, the hi-hats have a great presence, and with the synth strings during the chorus, it's probably the sparsest track on the whole album, if you can believe that, but not to the point where you've had so much in-your-face production that it's an underwhelming come down. In fact, it's a brilliant inclusion and one that stands out proudly. On Houdini, Ride puts some dude on complete blast, slamming the guy's appearance and using the line, "This asshole be a pussy church," as if to indicate that he's spruced up just to bang whatever woman shows some interest in him, whilst Ride simply slaps him aside and presents himself as the one who's going to get fucked and not this pretender. It's not a bad track, but personally I'm not too big on the whole production. It doesn't really exude any sort of reaction out of me. It does feel a little watered down and it doesn't excite me at all. BB Poison revisits the Death Grips attack on their fan base, more so those who are involved with the internet following Death Grips has built over the years, slamming those who constantly nag on the band to release new material, the group comparing themselves to Poison and how the fans lap it up while simultaneously describing their fan base as poisonous in the chorus, and the incessant demands getting Ride's back up. Backed by the buzzing sound effects, brief guitar interludes and hi-hats, again, it's fine, but it's around here that you crave for the more aggressive sounds. Thankfully, they return on the song 3 Bedroom bedrooms in a good neighbourhood. It's old school Death Grips, a sex anthem about how Ride has zero emotional connection with the women that he's engaging in sexual intercourse with, and he's only interested in smashing and then going about his day as usual and on to bigger things than forming a binding relationship with any of these women. Another great hook, another chaotic presentation with laser effects and synths. The lyrics are graphic, very specific, and packed with this dispassionate interest. It's a highly endearing track and thoroughly enjoyable to boot. The track Ring a Bell follows on from the previous theme, where Ride shrugs off some thirsty woman who's just vying to fuck the guy, describing her as a mosquito and her vox is dry, and that this woman's desperation is wearing thin on Ride's patience, and basically tells her that if she's so desperate to fuck, then she should just do porn for a living. Once again, detailed lyricism, noisy guitars, punchy drums, warped synth lines, no complaints. The penultimate song, 80808, which personally goes down as my least favourite track on the whole album, reads as a sound that Death Grips is providing, defining their talent as the priceless touch. It's attracting a new wave of audience, and how Ride pretty much refuses to acknowledge their new attraction, describing them as pigeons, and just continues to do what they do best, and just continues to do what he does best, irrespective of whether they attract fresh faces or not. I find the drum beat rather uninspired, the synths don't pack anything worth commenting on, it's kind of stilted, and it isn't until the synths take a more grimy tone halfway through that the song has something of interest to it. And finally, the album ends on the titular track, which is a much more visceral, aggressive, and almost violent version of Three Bedrooms, conjuring imagery that's akin to BDSM, with some really frightening results, especially with the line "I fucked you in half," and practically admitting to fucking someone with pure hate and malice. Some have said that this song is a metaphor for Death Grips' opinion on their fan base, for how the group constantly belittles their own audience, but despite such vitriol, their audience just keeps coming back for more, and they still remain loyal despite such hatred, hence the Bottomless Pit. And really, after this track, it isn't hard to see why. And to end the album, the group just goes all out on this one. Heavy rock instrumentation, stuttering electronics, graphic lyrical imagery, an absolute glorious song to cap off a terrific album. Once again, probably begrudgingly and against their own will, Death Grips has delivered a stellar album that is added on top of what is one of the best discographies of any group out there right now. The visceral, animalistic vibe this album delivers, the self-aware, apathetic lyrical themes, the production, the incorporation of raucous and primitive instrumentation with the electronic, glitchy, experimental style this group are known for, absolutely packed to the rafters with fantastic hooks and choruses. Almost all of them stick with you long before the listening experience is over. It's simply great. Nothing more can be said. Overall, I score this album 90 out of 100.